Hi, I'm Brittney Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you today on a Monday. Welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm your host, Brittney Ashley, and we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Get ready to escape the next hour as we break norms and build dreams with Isabelle. Thank you, Isabelle, for coming on today. I'm so excited to have you.
I am stoked.
I am so excited. I've been following you for some time. I always looked up to you. I just loved your journey. But for all the listeners, let me do a quick bio on you. Everyone, this is Isabelle, the co-founder and CEO of LeapZone Strategies, and one of the most inspirational branding, marketing, and customer experience keynote speakers. Isabelle is a no-nonsense dynamo born to catapult passionate entrepreneurs and thought leaders to build business and brands designed to make life better. As one of the North America's top business influencers, bestselling author, two-time TEDx speaker with over 3 million views, let's just raise the roof to that, and TV show host, Isabelle brings 30 years of branding, marketing, and customer experience expertise. She has helped thousands of business owners, thought leaders, as well as some influential iconic brands like A&W, Earl's Restaurant, IMAX Corporation, and HSBC Investments, just to name a few. Isabelle teaches how to grow businesses and brands that are designed to make life better and thrive in any economy by remaining the first, the best, of the only.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm truly excited to be here, and I've known you for a little bit as well and following your growth journey, and it's been quite inspiring.
Thank you. I seriously have always looked up to you. One of the biggest things, Linda, who was on the show, the past show, recommended me to come and follow along with you and get you as a coach. And I've been through different programs with you, so I'm excited to talk about that later in the show. But the biggest thing that I would love you to share with everyone is how you started with your positioning career. I heard it started about when you were about 9, 8.
I know, right? How's that possible? How is that even possible? Well, tell you what, I was raised in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom was a hairdresser. She's no longer, she's retired, but she was a hairdresser. I was raised in a hairdresser salon. My dad was in advertising and in radio and television, and positioning was always so important in my family. So you know the expression, ask and you shall receive?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, in my family, it wasn't that at all. In my family, it was pitch smartly and you might be considered. So imagine that you've got kids, right? So imagine I'm 7, 8, 9 years old, and instead I don't want to swim anymore twice a week. I want to go dance, do a dance class 4 times a week. I couldn't just come to my parents and go, I don't want to swim anymore. I want to do dance. I had to pitch it so that it would make life better for everybody. And as a parent, you know that if there's 4 classes versus 2, there's more taxiing to do, there's more money to be pitched in, and there's more energy to be put in. So I had to actually think about all that and pitch it in a way that would make sense. So 4 times I took on 2 babysitting clients so that they wouldn't have to pay any more than they would normally. And my friend Genevieve's mother took care of all the taxiing. So they went from 2 taxiing a week to 0, and it didn't cost them any more money. Plus I was going to be happier in dancing versus swimming. So if I heard my parents say, we'll see, I knew that was as a parent, and kids know, what does we'll see mean, right? It's just a delayed no. And so but when they said, absolutely, I knew that it's because I had thought about what I wanted, what mattered to them, and how can I position this in a way that's going to make life better for everybody, which is exactly what brand positioning is about. And so although when I was a kid, I didn't think that that was super fun to do, I thought my friend Genevieve, all she's got to do is ask, and I have to put on a PowerPoint. But today I'm so happy because it's gotten me where I am today, and I can pretty much help anybody position anything, so long, of course, as it makes life better.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. As you're speaking, I was thinking of my own story. Simpsons. Everyone knows The Simpsons. And that was like the number one show I was not allowed to watch. And so I did research. I actually did a PowerPoint and I presented it to my mom. And I was like, did you know that this is the most religious show? And like, and before I know it, now I was allowed to watch The Simpsons of like age 8. So now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it really is, whether you're owning a business or you're a parent, or you're the leader of a group or a circle, or at the end of the day, every day it's 1,001 pitches all the time. And the more we understand what people care about, whether they're your clients, your family members, your friends, the more we understand what people care about, the more we can put on the table ideas that are irresistible, meaning that people can't refuse, and that's all it's a part of what I do in my work in helping entrepreneurs grow their brand and their business.
I love that. Do you mind sharing just a bit more about your journey of how you really built LeapZone?
Yeah, it was, what's funny is I went to school for the film industry. So of course I did graphic design and marketing and all of that, but I met my wife and business partner at 18 years old at Concordia University. And we were both in the movie and theater industry in scenography, which is set design and props and special effects. And it's incredible. We actually moved to Vancouver from the province of Quebec because at the time, this is 32 years ago, at the time, Vancouver was the Hollywood of Canada. So we moved out west for the film industry, ended up not really liking the whole process of, at the very beginning of an industry, especially in the movie industry, you don't get to do what you're trained to do. You get to go fetch coffee for everybody. And not that I have anything wrong, not that there's anything wrong with climbing the ladder of success, but it felt like an impossibility of just a lifelong craziness. And so we started our first business, which was called Scenario Design, which was a branding agency. And so I was, as you know, I was raised in a family of entrepreneurs. So it's easier for me to call the shots and do my own thing the way I want to do it. Yeah. And so we started that, and then we sold that business at the age of 31, took a year off, traveled the world, and then evolved it into LeapZone, which is part strategy, part coaching, and part brand implementing, brand design, and all of that. So it just evolved into a much more strategic and much more hands-on helping our clients approach.
I love that. Do you mind sharing how you break the 3 different sections up for any of the listeners?
In terms of our divisions of our business?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a very strategic prong to our business. And it's that's why we've created a retreat center on Vancouver Island called Trailblazers. So people can come to spend 2-3 days with us, where we look under the hood of their business and really look at the 8 key areas for growth, culture building and team and time mindset and time and management and processes and systems and automation. All of that, we look under the hood to really help them set themselves up strategically for growth. And of course, what comes after growth is scale, right? You can't scale until you've grown. So that's the strategic part. Then there's the implementation coaching part, because a lot of our clients would say, great, we've got an amazing strategy. Can you help us implement? So we get into their, we lift our sleeves and get into doing the work with our clients, so they feel supported and they have the support and the guidance to go implement and then fight the challenges that arise along the way, of course. And then there's the implementation of visual branding and positioning and messaging and marketing. So once again, a lot of our clients are like, great, we're working with all of that with you. We wish you would do all of the other part with us, because you know us, you know our brand, we trust you. And because I had a branding agency before, we brought back that design piece into the mix. And right now, instead of our clients having to hire a bunch of different people who don't speak to one another, it's all done together smartly and strategically under one roof. And that's been helpful, tremendously helpful.
Yeah, I love that. It's talking from building my business and just knowing sometimes it's interconnected with branding or coaching. I feel like sometimes there's those gaps and you're trying to bring it to the other organization and they just don't seem to quite understand. So it's nice to have everything underneath one house. And
then there's times where we work with solopreneurs, and as you know, we have a Build to Rock program, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. But so we have services and guidance for solopreneurs and small business owners who are on the pathway of becoming bigger and more profitable and building a team. We also work with $100 million companies, few $100 million companies that have a big team that are wanting to elevate their culture and really build an even better brand from the inside out. So we have a variety, a big range of different products and services for all the pathways of growth in business.
Yeah, I love that. I went through Build to Rock, and I absolutely loved it. I learned so much. And not only that, you get to connect with other small business owners and just kind of listen to, I find like when you're in a group setting too, you can all thrive and you can brainstorm to see how to get to the next step. I'm trying to remember. It's been some time since I've been in it, but I have like the courses to kind of review or any.
Yeah, and you have the course for life. That's the beauty, is once you're a Build to Rocker, you have access to the course for life. And there's nothing in Build to Rock that is just not necessary. Everything, I've poured 30 years of experience into building this program. And I felt like the small business community has been underserved for years, meaning they don't necessarily, not everybody has the financial means to hire a coach one-on-one, but that doesn't mean that they don't have needs and needing for guidance. And so I created this program so it would be fun to go through, so it would be smart and easier to implement from how I've designed it versus doing it on your own. And so the results of the people that have gone through the program, which has been hundreds of thousands probably now over 8 years, actually, yeah, absolutely. The results have been absolutely amazing. And people have done it many times. They go back with a different idea or a different stage they're at, and then they go and do it again, which I think is fantastic.
And like, as you know, a brand is always evolving. So you're always, as you're growing too, or maybe there's something in your business that you're like, no, I want to remove that because I don't like that aspect within my business. It doesn't make sense anymore. Doing this course, like even for me to like be able to go back through it a few times has helped me, because I'm constantly, you know what, I don't like this piece here. Let's go back to the course and refresh. So anyone listening, please go join, because it's amazing. I love it. But you also have, we talked a little bit about trailblazers, but we didn't talk too much about the horses too.
The horses, yes. So the horse piece within our business, it's more known now than many, many years ago, but I'm sure that some of you have heard of equine therapy. And that's usually, it's a modality that's leveraged with horses, and usually kids with disabilities or people with addiction. And we actually leverage the power of this methodology in working with entrepreneurs and leaders and their teams, because horses are, oh my goodness, we just did a on our Outcome Overcome podcast, we just did an episode specifically on the power and the brilliance that horses have with people. And it's just, they have zero ego and they read energy for survival. And so they're able to get to an issue, whether you know it or not, energetically, it exists, much like disease, right? Disease in the body is dis-ease. So there's stuck energy somewhere in the body. So we partner with our horses. We have 4 beautiful horses at Trailblazers. And when people come here to experience the work that we do, they have an opportunity to also work with the horses to really get to the essence, to the root of certain limiting beliefs, of certain fears, certain things that they have that actually they don't even know, but it's slowing down their growth.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's so different. I remember, like I mentioned, Linda, before, because I did go through other coaching programs or anything like that, and I just felt stuck. And when I joined yours, like, I can't even describe it, but it was like a night and day, like, aha moment. And also too, of like a refresher of like, okay, I have my opinions too, but I love to like watch the different programs and just kind of build on what I've already kind of know and elevate it even further. And I love that you brought the horses into it, because horses, they can definitely really read the energy and just really know what is kind of going on a little bit more behind the scenes, and you want to really even bring forward.
Yeah, and there's, it's also, it affects it's proven there's neuroscience around this work. And so it's a lot of people would think, oh, it's pretty woo woo. And you know me, I've zero woo woo in me. And it's all about logic and things that 1 + 1 = 2. And let me tell you, in the 8 years of having Trailblazers, I have shifted my thinking around energy and around, like, the energy with which we work makes a difference. Two people can send the same email. One person has great energy, positivity, and the belief that this is going to move forward, versus the same email with a completely different energy, and you will not get the same results. And so it's been our secret weapon for getting to the core of certain issues that slow people down, slow their growth down, that none of us would know if it wasn't for the horses.
I really do love that. I got to experience only once, and it was just, I can't even describe it other than sign up and go try it.
I know it's hard to explain. You have to go through it in order to really understand and see the value.
Exactly. And I find sometimes, like, even the listeners might be thinking like, oh, this is just a hocus pocus kind of. No, like, it actually really works. It's kind of crazy. It's just kind of too like a mind shift. If you're thinking constantly negative in a space that you're never going to succeed, then unfortunately you probably will never succeed, because you're always thinking of that negative piece. But how can you switch that mindset to get out of that negative place and be like, yes, I believe in this business. I believe in whatever I'm doing because I'm passionate about it. It's that switch. Like, it's like the whole energy switch.
And, you know, I've invested my whole life saving into Trailblazers and the work with the horses, not just with the horses, but everything we do with LeapZone and at Trailblazers. And I would not have invested my life savings if I didn't know for a fact, logically, energetically, spiritually, that this was just something that was going to create faster, deeper, more long-lasting transformation with our clients.
Yes, I love that. There's one thing that you and I have in common, is dyslexia. And maybe you can kind of tell your journey, because everyone who's neurodiverse has something slightly different, bigger picture, visionary, see things backwards. Tell us more. What is your journey with dyslexia and any kind of hurdles that maybe you've had?
Yeah, my God, you know, I'm quite a bit older than you are. So in my days, it was not known at all. And schools, primary school, secondary school, cégep, because I'm in the French side of the world, it was just terrible. I always felt less than. It was also so difficult to understand what was going on. So I was one that's always my hand up to ask questions. I was very bright, very smart. I asked smart questions, but often teachers would say on the report cards, Isabelle is disturbing. She's always asking questions. And I'm thinking, if I was a teacher and I had a student that's that engaged and that curious, I wouldn't be bitching about it. I'd actually be celebrating it,
Yeah.
But it was in the days where we had to spell with, you probably never experienced this, but instead of going, PETA, it was
No.
I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember having to work so hard to always be with everybody else. Meanwhile, I was quite ahead in my thinking, but because no one else thought the way I thought I was always the one that short-circuited, And I remember, Brittney, I think I was 14, 15 years old. I had to write a 30-page paper. Let me tell you, a 30-page paper on a good day is crazy, even as an adult, And like 30-page paper, it was on the subject of audacity. And I thought to myself, there is no way I can write 30 pages about audacity. How else can I approach this exercise? And we had 2 weeks to do it. And then I made a decision. I thought, I'm gonna prove my audacity rather than talking about it for 30 pages. So here's what I did. I took, and I'm a straight A student. Like I do what needs to be done. I don't take shortcuts. I just work.
Yeah.
So this time around, I thought, this one's bright.
Yeah.
So I did a cover, beautiful cover. Audacity is ... I numbered 30 blank pages. And then the back cover said ... this, period. And then I kept it because I thought, ooh, this is ballsy. I might fail. And so everybody was working really hard on their papers and I was already done. And I said to my friends, I'm done, but I'm panicking about it. And anyways, 2 days before it was due, Brittney, imagine that. The teacher comes back and goes, just remember, 2 days from now, your paper is due. And remember, your grade is going to be worth your entire semester. Well, now I am literally shitting bricks. Literally, I am freaking out. So then I go see my mom and I'm like, okay, Mom, I think I screwed up. I think I'm going to fail my semester. I just want to tell you in advance. And so I told my mom and my mom was like, well, it's actually pretty brilliant. So anyways, she said to me something that I'll never forget. She said, Isabelle, at this point, you need to commit to what you chose because every decision, being a good decision or a bad decision or a mediocre decision, there's always a trade-off. And she's like, let's look at the trade-off. You're committed. Now, if you were on a 30-foot diving board and you were midair, what would you do? Would you commit to your dive or would you, uncommit and flail and then do a big belly flop? So I committed to my project and I delivered it. And of course, the teacher had me sweat like crazy on grades, but he did in the end give me an A+ without having, not without having me sweat in front of everybody and explaining why I had done the shenanigans. He did see the value in what I was demonstrating because he knew me and he knew that I had sweated for a while, right?
Yeah.
But my point was, this gave me I know for a fact that it gave me greater self-confidence, a much more valuable experience than if I would have actually tried to write 30 pages about audacity. I know that for a fact.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just thinking of my journey too. And I actually I couldn't even get into French because my brain just couldn't
I hear you.
comprehend it. And so, as you know, we all have to have French class. And so luckily, because I got diagnosed, they used that as a tool for me to learn extra space to get extra help. And so I just remember I was pretty quiet in school. I kind of kept to myself. I wasn't like you with my hands up. I was just kind of, I hated reading out loud. Was
Oh, I hated reading out loud. I would
right?
vomit.
I
Yeah.
just super anxious, like all the above. But the one thing, unfortunately, with school, I found this is the whole premise too of why I started the show, is just to tell everyone they are worthy. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what label somebody has labeled you as. We are all we are all worthy of whatever we want to pursue in life if we're absolutely passionate about 100%. So so this is like my whole realm of this show is like helping me do my own self-discovery as well. Because even thinking of me speaking in front of listeners like this right now, I'm like, oh my goodness, a part of my introvert me like dies a little bit inside.
And what I understood, like you, I had difficulty, and in my days, they would have everybody read out loud, right? One after the other, and maybe in yours as well, like you said. So what I would do is I would calculate the people, and then I would count the paragraph, then I would practice like crazy. But then Natalie in front of me, she'd be so good. She'd read 2, 3 paragraphs, and I'd be like, oh no, now I gotta start. But meanwhile, I'm not listening. I'm panicking. I'm not learning. I'm stressed as all hell.
Yeah.
And at some point, a friend of mine, my friend's mother said to me, Isabelle, fish don't climb trees. And I thought, what do you mean by that? She's like, you just learn differently. Because at some point they understood that my way of seeing things, like if something protrudes out in a 3D world, I see it in. If it's, a blend of this color to that color, well, I see that differently. For years, I thought that was the bane of my existence. And let me tell you, I am now an expert at simplifying content, simplifying meaning, taking the intangible and making it tangible, helping people distill complicated stuff into very simple. And I guarantee you, I would not be as good as I am at that had it not been for my dyslexia and all the crap I had to go through to get to appreciate that this is not a disability for me. It's a superpower. It's a superpower. And we need to own who we are, right? By owning our badassery, then we can step more into our greatness, no matter who we are, no matter what abilities or disabilities or limitations or not limitations. We all have a beautiful combination that is unique, that when leveraged can actually create magic.
Yes, 100%. And I'm still like, as I go through this journey, I'm seeing like ways. I now realize why I never fit into a 9 to 5.
Yeah. Oh my God. For
Honestly,
sure.
I'm like one and done. Like if I get it, I'm on to the next. On to the next. What else are you giving to me? I'm already bored.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So being an entrepreneur, I have like 600 different things, and everyone's like, "How do you do it?" Like, I don't know. Maybe it's my dopamine. It's that I'm able to keep up with it because it fires me up. So if somebody comes in with a problem, I'm like, I might not know how to fix it right now, but give me a week and I'll come back and I will show you a more simplified way of how we can do something.
Well, of course. And let me tell you, some of the most brilliant business minds and entrepreneurs on the planet, of products and services that we couldn't live without, that are very well known, are dyslexic, right? And so it's just a different way of learning, a different way of thinking. And it's not because the universe, the school system is built a certain way that we all need to fit into that certain way. It's no longer that way,
Exactly. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Let's talk a little bit more about your TED Talk, because I know you've done a few TED Talks. I've listened to them. I love them. One specifically on the hero formula. Can you talk a little bit more on that one?
Yeah, this particular TEDx came about. I was asked a couple times to speak on a particular subject, and I thought, I don't have time for a TEDx. My God, it's just a lot of work. Let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. But so I chose to talk about how to diminish worry. And this again started with what my mom said to me when I was 9 years old, which is a completely different phrase than we talked about earlier. I remember being bullied, and I was always worried about, how do I walk to work? How do I come back to school? How do I come back from school? What road will I take? Will they find me? Will I get beaten today? I mean, it was just ridiculous. And at some point, this particular person phoned me, and I knew it was this person phoning me. And I said to my mom, just say that I'm not there. And my mom said, just a second, Stephanie, she's right here. And so and this is in the TED Talk, but she passed the phone to me and she said, Isabelle, if you can't say no to what you don't want, you'll never have the time and the energy for what you do want. And that phrase stayed with me. And it allowed me to actually, reponder that and create the TED Talk about the power of zero tolerance. And I don't mean it in the zero tolerance. I mean it in the way of the things that you tolerate in your day, in your day-to-day, whether it's a leaky faucet or someone you need to have a brave conversation with, an employee that's always late, whatever you're tolerating in life, you saying yes to things you should say no to, at some point you will end up worrying about those things. And instead of, a lot of people talk about reducing worry, they talk about, do more meditation, go walking, do some gym. There's nothing wrong with that. And I wanted to bring a new perspective to the table, which is, if you just look at the things that you tolerate in your day-to-day, and you list them out, and every day or every week you pick one and you bust it, you will automatically, in addition to going to the gym, walking and moving and meditating, you will fast track the diminishment of worry, which of course will increase your level of happiness. So I came up with the hero, because you know that 40% of what people worry about will never happen. 30% of what people worry about has already happened, nothing you can do about it. Then 12% of what most people worry about, needless worries about our health. When you're freaking out, you have a headache, and then you call upon Dr. Google. And then 10% of what we worry about is petty miscellaneous worry, like what shoes am I going to wear? What am I going to cook for dinner? So that leaves 8% for actual legitimate things to not worry, but to ponder and do something about. So I created the hero story, which is basically, and people are going to have to watch the TED Talk in order to know more, but the hero, not story, but hero, how do you call that? Analogy is basically you got to hush the noise and the chatter so that you can reconnect with what you do want instead of what you don't want. E for evaluate what and who you're tolerating in your life. Ritualize the habits that bring you to your best life, to your best self. And then it's about owning, right? The O is about, you got to own. It's not enough to know what you're tolerating. It's you got to own it. You got to do something about it. And it's much easier to do something small every day about a thing. Like on the weekend, there was a remote that had poor batteries, and every time I want to use it, it never works. And I'm like, I always forget, but I'm tolerating that happening. So this weekend I went, that's it. I'm changing it right now. It's little things, but the little things build confidence and build momentum to have possibly brave conversations. I've been with Margarita as a couple and as business partners for 32 years. Let me tell you, one of the things that the secret to being in love and in life and in work together and not kill each other every day is because we're able to have brave conversations, real conversations. We're not afraid of putting all the cards on the table, whether it means discussing, are we staying together or not. We've had plenty of these conversations as a couplepreneur, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I find the more communication, like I'm learning, because I came from like a broken family and all these things. And so it's hard for me sometimes to even communicate, and I go in instant worry. And all the, like you go down this spiral effect. And I'm like self-diagnosed too with ADHD, and I hyper focus on certain things I've done or done in the past and just go in this big circle, but
Spiral.
fireball. And having more open communication and being and owning it, like you're saying, it's it helps you kind of have a different mind frame too. When you start breaking up more communication and being more vulnerable as well, if that piece that
Yeah.
may scare you, it helps you take away that worry.
And Margarita, 8 years ago, because we've been on at this retreat center called Trailblazers on Vancouver Island for 8 years now. But just before that, the couple of years before that, had it not been for Margarita being vulnerable, allowing herself to be vulnerable and to share with me that she wasn't fulfilled with the way the business was at the time, she felt like there could be better ways to, and faster and better ways to create more connection, more depth in the work that we do with our clients. Had she, and I'm someone who's like, I'm on a path, get out of my way, I'm moving forward. And so, right, exactly. So for someone that is more vulnerable, maybe a little less sure, and wanting to open up a conversation that could break what is, it took a lot of courage for her. And I will say, initially, when she said, I want to include horses into our business, I was like, well, she better be talking about horsepower and a motorcycle level here, because, I don't see how else how can you merge equine with branding and business strategy? But by listening and by being open. So she was courageous, but I was also courageous. Instead of going, I could have went like, what? No, I don't have time for this. Let's move on. But no, I just went, hang on a minute, tell me more. And let's have a conversation about that. And our business would not be where it is today had it not been for that pivotal moment of both of us,
Yeah, I love that. I think too, we kind of get a little bit sucked into social media sometimes, get sucked into the noise of everything around us, that we kind of forget what's right in front of us. And so being mindful and open and communicating that helps you build that stronger relationship too.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, being in business to begin with is challenging. Being in business with the love of your life, there should be an award for this, is what I'm saying. There should be an award for this. And for those of you who'd love to know more about the equine work part of the work, not necessarily our work, but more about how the power of horses on human beings and on neuroscience. Our last Outcome Overcome podcast episode is about that on our website.
Yes. I'm kind of switching for anyone watching right now. It's down below, and I've been switching back and forth between the podcast and the website. So take a look, and I'll put it in comments for everybody as well.
Great.
Maybe we can talk a little bit, because you've already spoke a lot about bold moves, but is there anything that really sticks out on your journey of, like we talked a bit about even just the horses, but what else is kind of popping into your brain of different bold moves and adversity?
Oh, well, I mean, as you know, I've been in business with my partner in life. So as I've shared many times already, and 32 years ago, that was not as accepted as it is today. So we've had to, in business, and in life, we've had to really own who we are and stand by who we are. And the crazy or the inexplicable thing is, I am not gay, Margarita's not gay, and we are together in a gay marriage. Both of us can say that if we weren't with one another, we don't know necessarily if we'd be with another woman or with a man. And so people put us into a gay category, which is absolutely fine because it's too complicated to explain, but it's a lot more fluid than that. And now people are learning that more and more. But in business, we've had to put our foot down a few times and be really true to ourselves. And not too long ago, I was in Sacramento speaking to a group of large business owners, and I share freely that I'm with a woman. My wife is also my business partner, and together we're the dynamic duo. And, you know, I've always been more and more uncomfortable with that. And it's been a long time since I've been uncomfortable with that. But at the very beginning, it took a few years before we told anybody, let alone people in our close circle. And recently, when I spoke to that group, there's many people after that came to me after and said, we think it's so inspiring when people own who they are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the unsure, and I thought, I don't quite know how else to be but myself. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, it's brought some really challenging periods in our life, in our business. We were at some point working with groups who really, we could not let them know that we are together. They would have most likely hurt us. Mm-hmm. And of course, at that point, we had to shift. We're like, we can't work with people like that. We can't go through life and not be ourselves. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And I think when you're creating too a brand, it's all about who you want to work with too, being authentic to who you are, authentic to everybody else. And if you're not authentic to you, then you're never going to be in alignment when you're building the business.
And I can't be preaching authenticity in branding if I'm not authentic myself. So, you know, if I make a mistake, I'm the first one to go, you know what? I now have thought about this and no, I've changed my mind. You've convinced me. Or yeah, I see it differently now. Or I'm sorry, I did not see that clearly. Or no, these are my boundaries. And, you know, as business owners, as you know, we need to create clear boundaries, and not only create boundaries, but respect them. It's one thing to create boundaries. It's a completely different thing to respect them. And I think everyone starts a business because they want to have more freedom. They want to generate more money. They want to have the opportunity to help and impact more people. Mm-hmm. But as a result of not necessarily understanding business and all that is involved, and also wanting to please and wanting to help people, at some point what happens is people feel overwhelmed, overworked, and literally undervalued for the genius that they bring to the table. Yes. And that is a question of really getting clear about what you stand for as a brand, who you are, what you believe in, what's the new normal that you want to create for yourself and for your clients. And then you have to create boundaries around that to really protect that and only attract opportunities. See, if people keep saying yes to things that they should say no to, the universe goes, they said yes, let's give them more of that, you know?
Yeah.
I remember years ago, Brittney, I had an opportunity to work with Disney. And that was at the very early of our career. Disney is a big, obviously, was then, still is today. And the way the contract, it was freelance, but the way the contract was written, it was basically freelance, but you're our slave. So when we need you, you need to, day or night, doesn't matter what you have on your plate. When we need you, you better be there. And it was great money, great company. And I thought, wow, who has an opportunity like that at the very start of their career? Mm-hmm. And we, after crying a few nights of discussion, Margarita and I, we decided to decline, because we didn't start our business to be a slave to another business. We started our business to do it our way and to follow suit with what we wanted to do. And I have zero regrets, but let me tell you, it was a decision that was difficult to make, and it involved a hell of a lot of tears.
I can definitely see, it's when you're just starting a business and something gets put in front of you to that scale, it's just kind of, how do you even, part of you is like, how do I not say yes? Like,
and then family members, right? They're like, come on, you can't say, you're starting. You can't be all of that in a bag of chips when you're starting. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying I'm not willing to work hard. I'm not saying I'm not willing. What I'm saying is I'm not willing to become a slave to something that I don't agree with, And so by having strong beliefs and strong boundaries around that, I believe that it set the universe straight, and the universe was like, oh, these women, these girls mean business, and they're not going to dink around with this. So let's give them more of that,
Yes, I love that. I think too, now I'm almost coming in my, I don't even know, we stopped counting, maybe 5th year, 4.5, give or take. I'm just finally like, no, boundaries. What are my non-negotiables? I tell all of my clients this, but I'm like my own worst client. What are the non-negotiables? What are my boundaries for me as a mom, as a business owner? How do I see this growing full scale? Like all the questions that I usually ask, but not for myself. And so this year I'm calling it like the year of a cleanup. What's the year? If these automations aren't making sense anymore, what does make sense? If you're attracting these kind of people, why? If you're saying yes to these things, why?
That's right.
Let's do like a self-evaluation. Even though I feel like this year hasn't fully started, it has fully started, but maybe I'm doing like a full kind of evaluation of me in a way. Like I ride the wave with because I told you about the kiddo losing daycare. So I feel like everything kind of shifted in a way, but I feel like everything happened for a reason for me to reevaluate how I've been doing things a bit more. And then, going back to the authentic piece is I'm really trying to say no. And I know usually I'm like, oh, like I'm all talk about it, but lately I'm like, no, you got to say no and mean no.
And it's the best movies have got amazing scenes on the cutting floor. The best books have got some of the best paragraphs left not made it in the book. It's not just to say no to the things we're clear. Like it's actually easier to say no to the things we clearly don't want. Where it gets tricky is great opportunities and great, amazing things that could totally be a yes, but you still need to say no because you can't drive yourself so thin that you can't actually do great work, right? And one of the strategies you said at just a moment ago, you said, I'm my worst client. One of the strategies at LeapZone is to treat your own self and your own business like you would treat $1 million client. When $1 million client calls and needs any client for that matter, but I'm saying million because it would be like if Oprah called, I'd be there, But the thing is, it's easy to say yes to clients and to help them and to put a bunch of things aside to help a client. At LeapZone, we've always treated LeapZone like one of our top paying client. I'll give you an example. Last week, every 8th week of the year, so 8, 16, 32, move on. It's a week where we just work on LeapZone. We don't have any client meetings. We don't deliver anything. We just look, we assess if there's a brochure, a video, up-leveling the website, creating something new. We're creating a new group coaching program, Margarita and I. I created the promo video, the info page, all of that. I can't be doing that in a week where I'm back-to-back serving clients. I have to, and for me, I've tried a day here or an hour here and an hour there. It's just not enough. I want to be focused for a whole week and get 1 million things done and done well. So that's our way of treating ourselves like we are a high paying client. And it pays off because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my boundaries around that and my dedication. I have to be as dedicated to LeapZone as I am to my clients. Because in the end, if I'm running on 2 wheels, how can I help them have 4 aligned wheels,
Yes. It's so true. So true. I feel like this year, even though I've had like a shift in care or a shift in life, I feel like it's happened for a reason, like I mentioned, and it's just kind of helped me kind of reevaluate a little bit more. And like for me right now, like we're not taking on any clients until I've like tried to like rework or jig things up. My main number one thing is show up for all of you live every Monday.
Yeah, that's a lot of work right there. I know it.
Yes, luckily I'm well organized, as you know.
That's evident.
Yes. Um, we're almost there. We're on 10 minutes to go before
What?
it goes, right? I want you to just show everybody kind of your information here. From maybe you can talk about from hot mess to organize, what this one is all about, the masterclass.
Yeah. So the masterclass from hot mess to organized success, that's where I share some really tangible strategies and tools to help organize yourself, not just yourself, but also, your business. I share tools that I use all the time to really keep me organized, keep me set up to win versus, because a lot of people play not to lose instead of playing to win. There's a difference. And so as a dyslexic human being, I have tools that I use to help me be more effective with communicating with my team members, with my clients. I share those tools in Hot Mess to Organize Success. I'm also a big believer in templates. So I never do something from scratch very often. I always create certain things and then I go, like proposals, for example. Yes, every proposal is different, but there's a base that is the same. And so to start from smart templates, email templates, how we onboard a client, how we look at where they're at 6 months down the line, like all these things are very well organized. The system is automated. So I share about simple ways and simple tools and strategies to get more organized, get more things done while working less. And so that from hot mess to organized success, that is one of the master classes that I have on my Learning Lab website.
Perfect. I find coming in from just kind of like assisting as an online business manager, like having certain tools in place really helps a business owner feel a lot more organized and less stress. Because running a business, going through all these different areas, you need to know like what's happening over here all the time. And sometimes you can't. But if things are organized and systemized with the right tools that make sense to you as a business owner, you're going to feel so much less stressed out.
And then in addition to that, to what you said, it'll allow you the opportunity to be able to delegate. Because if everything is in your head and everything is in your day-to-day and nobody can actually follow something to help you with that, like it's much easier for me to delegate. The more organized I am, the more the information doesn't reside in my head. It's actually, we use Trello. So everything is in Trello, from the horse's weights to like anything personal and anything business. We literally have different boards, different cards, different things and my assistant can go and find all the information that she needs. If Luciano, one of the coaches that coaches for LeapZone, if he needs a tool or a strategy or a system, he doesn't have to go, hey, Isabelle, where is that? It's very well organized. They know where things are so that I'm not bottlenecking, because this is something that happens when you start growing your business and you have maybe an assistant, maybe you don't have an assistant yet, or maybe you have an assistant and another team member. Man, you being the bottleneck is the biggest pain in the butt ever. And that is your own doing. It's, you're used to do everything. So of course, you know it in your head and you just go and about it and you do it. But then it's impossible to delegate and it's impossible for other people to help you. So as you grow, when we started our first business, we set it up so we could be selling it, even though we had no intention of selling it, but we did. And we would not have been able to sell it if everything had been in our heads and just, we just go about our business day to day, disorganizingly. I don't know if that's a word, but we'll say it is. So the journey of de-linchpinning yourself is a journey that is much easier when you start not keeping everything in your head early on. Even if you don't have anybody to delegate to, one day you probably will. And it's just much easier to start early,
100%. And you just never know if you want to sell. And like, I love doing SOPs for clients. I should point to myself, create an SOP for you.
That's right.
But I like just did like a whole bunch of SOPs. I'm like, this is fun. But then when it comes to me, I'm like,
Well, that's the thing. And because you don't have, first of all, it's much harder to work on our own things than it is to work on other people's things, right? And so that's why we have sit down complete weeks set aside for these things so that we can get it done, you know?
I love that idea. I really do. I try, but I have mine like broken into sections. So I'm trying to figure out what makes sense. Because I feel like with kiddos, I'm like, I don't know anymore right now. But I love working on like trying to fix things up for myself, because I know it's just going to help me relieve that stress and know things are a little bit more, if anything ever happens.
And to start, you can just start with what we call bubble time, right? It's bubble time is a dedicated block of time that is undisrupted. You're undisrupted. No bing, bing, ding, ding, no email, no social media, no picking up the phone. You're just for an hour and a half, you just sit down and you get some things done. So I have purple blocks in my calendar. So part of Hot Mess to Organize Success, I talk about how I organize my schedule in color code because I'm dyslexic. So just by looking at the colors of my calendar, I need to know what kind of week I'm having. And if I'm touching on prospecting and, you know, getting things done and delivering to my clients, like, am I touching all the parts that make a business profitable and go well? So sometimes it's just a matter of setting an hour and a half aside on a regular basis. And you may not know what you're going to achieve in that block of time, but you know that you will have time to do whatever needs to be done.
I love that. That's definitely, I'll start doing that. Your next is helpfulness in the new hustle.
Yeah, helpfulness is the new hustle. That's another masterclass that I talk about marketing in there. It's about really understanding what your business stands for, because marketing is just the actions of promoting, of sharing why you're the right solution for a certain client, right? So being helpful. A lot of people don't like sales. They're shy. They don't want to feel salesy. And this masterclass is for people who are really good at what they do, but don't like a sales conversation, don't like to actually, they like making a sale, but they don't like the process of making a sale. And so that is all about being helpful. And I share 3 impact drivers to really help you be more helpful to your prospects, to your clients, and creating new normals with what you are meant to be doing, right? Your genius on the table. And I make it fun. And so people tell me, oh my God, I was always afraid of marketing. And now I love it. I do what feels right for me, and I do it in a way that's being helpful, and I'm getting great results. So that helpfulness is the new hustle is all about increasing your sales, therefore your impact, without being salesy.
Oh, I love that. I always say to clients along the way of like, what makes sense for you? Because social media, it's a beast in itself. If you don't like to show up on Instagram and do reels, let's figure out something else for you. That makes sense for you. So you're not feeling, because you might feel salesy if you're showing up on Instagram and it's not in alignment to you. And it's all about the alignment of what makes sense to you and what you feel comfortable with. This particular person loved YouTube videos. I'm like, well, that's amazing. If you love YouTube videos and you're already making that content, then we can cut those pieces down and throw it out to the masses while you show up authentically over here too.
Yeah. And I think what's important is to really understand what's your bigger play. What's the big impact you want to create? And once you understand, for me years ago, it was, I wanted to impact 1 million entrepreneurs. And then a TEDx opportunity came up and I was like, oh no, I don't have time. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, this could be a short track to my 1 million. And now I'm at 4, right? So sometimes the impact you want to create, the vision needs to be stronger than the fear of one thing.
Yes. Love that. I'm looking at the time. We are like top of the hour. Is there any last minute tips, tricks, right before we jump off here for any of our listeners. I have all your information here for anyone listening to come on to the show and look at Isabelle's website, podcast channel, YouTube channel. I'll have them all going here.
Yeah, I would just say the thing I would say is the more noise online, right? There's a lot of noise everywhere. You need to just be clear about what you offer, why you offer it, clear about what's your message and how you're going to communicate it. And the simpler and more authentically you communicate that, the better. And so step into who you are, own your badassery. And one of our taglines is permission to be bold, granted. Permission to be you, granted, right? Permission to be a badass, granted.
Yes. Love that. Thank you so much, Isabelle, for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to have you again. For all our listeners and the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Next week, we have Marianne coming in. We're talking about system automations, her journey. So with that, until next week, remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. Thank you, everyone.